Webcomics. Starting them is utterly terrifying. I remember being a 14-year-old kid sitting at his second-hand bamboo tablet and banging out the most shakily drawn comic pages known to man on Paint Tool Sci. I had no idea what I was doing, and because of that, I ended up burning out and quitting within a year or two. I wanted to offer a helping hand to people who were just starting their webcomics, folks who may be a bit intimidated and aren't really sure where they're supposed to start. So let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Jox, I use he/they pronouns, and I'm a webcomic artist who's been making comics for about 8 years as of the publishing of this video. I run a paranormal mystery webcomic, Tip the Ferryman, which has been going on for about 2 years now, and these are 5 tips for starting your webcomic now. Let's start out. Number 1. Tiny experiments, or start small. Webcomics are huge projects. Doing the math, if I keep a consistent weekly update schedule, it's going to take me about 10 to 15 years to complete my current webcomic. Now, this does change on a case-by-case basis. If you have a pretty short story, your comic might not take that long, but you'll still be in it for at least 2 years. Because of this, you need to start small. If you're wood carving for the first time, you'll probably start by making a wooden spoon. If you're painting for the first time, you might start by painting an apple. If you're writing for the first time, you might start with a 3-page short story. That same logic applies to comics. Start small. What I would recommend is making 5 to 10 pages of a short story or scene or something like that to test what you do and don't like about making comics. It's also a good way to get a feel for the writing, for like your characters and the world that you're going to be putting into your story too. See what you like about the art, the writing, the characters, and the world that you've made, so on and so forth. Try to get a feel of what works for you. And remember, kill your darlings. There is no shame in tossing out ideas or doing revisions. I quit working on my first webcomic about 100 pages into it because I'd really evolved as a storyteller, and I mean, it was written when I was an edgy 14-year-old, so it wasn't very good. And after that, it took me about 5 years to land on a project I really wanted to make. I scrapped 27 pages of a huge high fantasy comic that I wasn't ready to make. I concepted for another story called Other Folk and wrote a lot of scripts for it. But eventually, I landed on Tip the Ferryman, and even then, Tip the Ferryman went through a crazy amount of changes before I landed on the story that it is now. Seriously, it used to be a cyberpunk murder mystery. There is nothing wrong with doing revisions, and starting with a small, easy-to-complete project to test the waters is your best bet here. Number 2. Keep it simple, stupid! I cannot emphasize this enough. Webcomics are long, and very, very tedious to create. If you don't want to burn yourself out, it may be a good idea to keep things simple. Your character design should be easy for you to draw. Toss out any unnecessary little details. Trust me, you will forget them constantly. One of my webcomic characters, Eddie, used to have sunglasses and always had their face mask on, just pulled down so it wasn't covering their face. Or at least, they did have those whenever I actually remembered to draw those parts of their design. Eventually, I phased these out of their design entirely. You don't want to spend 5 hours drawing one character in one panel of one page. You will go crazy. Keep things simple and easy for you to draw. Please. There are a lot of tools you can use as shortcuts too, like custom brushes and 3D models, and no, using these is not cheating. You're just using a tool. You're not going to tell a painter that they're cheating because they bought their paintbrushes instead of crafting the bristles themselves. So why would you say the same to digital artists using tools that come with the darn program? I use a lot of custom brushes in my webcomics, usually for small, tedious details that would take up way too much time. Things like books, grass textures, Joey's freckles, fire effects, just little things to save me a few minutes on drawing a piece, especially backgrounds. If you're using Clip Studio Paint, you can make your own custom brushes or get a few off the brush store. A few moments ago, I mentioned 3D models. Making your own 3D models can be a lifesaver when it comes to drawing backgrounds, and they don't even have to be super detailed. I make these really shabby low poly models in Blender. Like take a look at these guys. They're so sad. What did I do to this shape? and then I take and then I take screenshots of what I've made at different angles and just trace over them in Clip Studio. I do the same with some character art too. I take a lot of photos of my own hands in real life and just trace them over. I took the photos, I made the models, so no, it's not cheating or stealing. I'm using something that I made. It would be a problem if they weren't my photos or my models, or I was using someone else's work without their permission. It's not like AI where you bang out a few words on a keyboard and get a shitty, overly polished image Frankenstein from a database of stolen art. Like, no. You're using a tool made by yourself or other people who have given you permission to use it. Something being easier does not make it less valuable, and suggesting that art only has value if you struggle to make it is fucking unhealthy and weird. I get very heated about this topic. Point is, there is nothing wrong with making things easier for yourself. Trust me, you'll thank yourself for it later. So, moving on to number 3. Don't be afraid to be bad. Your first page is going to be terrible. There is nothing you can do about it. You just need to take a deep breath and accept it. What I've always loved about webcomics is that as you go through them, you can see the art evolve. You can see little quirks in the art style get figured out. You see the artists getting used to drawing the characters. You see them learn new skills like drawing backgrounds or cool ways to do lighting or just anything, really. Comics are an observation in artistic evolution. Every page is going to be better than the last, and every page you draw is going to be worse than the next. It's the whole point. Nobody is expecting perfection, and assumedly you're going to be doing this for free. So more importantly, you don't owe anyone perfection. I see a lot of people not starting their webcomics because my art isn't good enough, or I don't know how to do this or that, and listen to me. Nobody's going to give you permission to get started. Nobody is going to give you permission to be bad so you can learn to be good. You know why? Because nobody else can give you that permission. You need to do that yourself. You need to give yourself permission to suck so you can succeed later down the line. The first and hardest step is getting started. Everybody looks back at their first page and cringes. I do it, you do it, your favorite webcomic artist does it. It's normal. Don't let that fear of, oh, this is gonna look awful, stop you. Because it's supposed to. If your first page looks like hell, congratulations, you're doing it right. Plus, you can always go back and change things. I personally wouldn't recommend entirely redrawing pages, but there's nothing wrong with going back and tweaking dialogue and awkward-looking expressions or something like that. I'm currently chipping my way through tweaking colors on the first few chapters of Ferryman because they are, they're bad. They're really bad. They're so unbelievably dark that you can't see certain characters' bodies at all. It's terrible. It's an issue, and hey, that's fine. It's part of the learning process. I'm gonna fix it. So, basically, don't get hung up on being bad at something. You're supposed to be bad at it. Trust me, you'll learn with time, and there's always room for you to go back and tweak your mistakes later. No shame in it. Number 4, update at your own pace. Update schedules. An update schedule can keep you on track with your comic while also giving your audience an expectation for when the comic will update next. I'd argue they're the hardest part of making webcomics, because they require one very important thing. Self-discipline. You need to be able to have a workflow that fits with your webcomic's update schedule. That all being said, you need to choose something that works for you. A common update schedule for webcomics is 1 or 2 pages every week, but if you can't keep up with that, guess what? You don't have to do it. You can update once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe once a month, whatever works best for you and your workflow. Some of my favorite webcomics update on specific days of the month, so do whatever you want. Take a week or two to observe how many pages you can get done in a week without burning yourself out. Using those numbers, figure out how many of those you'd want to upload and when. I do recommend creating a backlog of pages also, so include that in your count. Having a buffer between updates and when you need to actually work on your comic will come in handy if unexpected circumstances prevent you from drawing that week. Trust me, drawing pages a day before you're supposed to is absolutely hellish. This is how I ran my first webcomic, and I ended up burning out and quitting before I could get 2 years into it. I also realized I forgot to add something in my script, so this part might be a bit rambly, but if you're finding that, you're putting out pages a bit slower than you would like, and you would like to, update, more frequently and stuff like that, Take a look at your workflow and see what you would like to adjust about it to make things easier for yourself. Go back to tip number 2, keep it simple, stupid. Anyway, as I was saying, you can always change this if your conditions change too. Back in 2022, I was between jobs for a few months, so I had enough time to update Ferryman with half a chapter on the 30th of every month. This was about 15 pages a month, which was feasible since I basically had 30 days between updates to complete these pages, and nothing better to do between job searches. However, I finally found a full-time job in late 2022, so I no longer had time to do such a huge update schedule. Ferryman then switched to being a 2 pages a week comic, and that works great for me. You need to do what works best for you while still keeping up with your updates in a timely manner. There is no correct answer to this, it varies from person to person, so take some time to examine your work habits and figure out what's right for you. And remember, if you need to take a break or have smaller updates, then do that. You're doing this for free, I assume, so you don't owe anybody anything. Moving on to number 5, and the most important tip here, I believe. Number 5, do whatever you want forever. This part is so important for you to remember. This entire list is hinged on do what works for you and do whatever you want to do. Comics are hard. I'm not going to sit here and act like doing this is all sunshine and rainbows. It's great. I love it. I really do. But it can be difficult. Comics take a lot of self-discipline and a lot of hard work that likely won't be recognized until you're a few years into your project. So you need to find ways to make this project fun for yourself. Be self-indulgent as hell. Use all your favorite tropes, character designs, story elements, genres, whatever you want to do. You need to be making the story that you want to see, not whatever you think will get you on the front page of Tapas and Webtoon. I know it's so easy to fall into the trap of, but nobody is reading my comic, so why should I make it? You should make it because you want to. You should make this story because you want to see it written and drawn. I'm not going to say you shouldn't feel upset that you're not getting readers right out of the gate. That's totally normal to feel. I've been there. But you do need to find ways to deal with it and persevere. And something that's going to make that so much easier is if you just make this comic something that is fun for you. Do you have a type of character that you really like? Like the jerk with a heart of gold or chill, cool guy who's secretly not chill at all? Put them in your comic. Do you love world building? Make the most over-the-top, crazy world you can think of. Do you like romance? Do you not like romance? Guess what? You get to choose if it's in your comic or not. And you get to use whatever fun tropes that you want to with any of this. Nobody is restricting you. There's no studio execs telling you what to do here. The story is yours. So you need to hone it. You need to love it. You need to hold that light between your hands and nurture it so both of you can blind the world with your brightness. Tip to Ferryman is full of all kinds of things that I love. I like to think that you could see its inspirations just oozing out of it. Like, growing up, my favorite parts of Gravity Falls were all the fun supernatural mysteries and the complicated relationship between the Stan twins. So, Tip the Ferryman is a paranormal mystery webcomic that involves 2 twin brothers who have a pretty complicated relationship, not helped by the fact that something terrible happened to the more quote-unquote serious of the 2 years before the event of the story. I know it's hard to ignore the numbers. I know it's scary, but you have to do it scared. You'll thank yourself for it later. Remember, you're not alone in this community full of new comic creators either. Reach out to your fellow comic artists, share what you make with close friends, flood your entire social media feed with how much you love your characters. Have fun with it. People love it whenever you have fun with it, and I guarantee you that there's someone out there looking for that exact weird, self-indulgent, niche little project you're cooking up in that head of yours right now. And if you keep at it, if you have fun with it, those people will find you eventually. What I'm saying is, have fun with it. Wear your inspirations on your sleeve and go forth with all your funny little self-indulgent blurbos. If you love your story, it will love you back. So go love your story. Go love your comic. And good luck out there. That's about all I've got in terms of tips, but, oh, dear viewer, I am not the arbiter of all knowledge. No. Down in the description below, I've linked a bunch of resources for creating webcomics, especially as a beginner. They're all resources I regularly use for my own webcomics, so I thought I'd ought to share them. Some of them are free, some of them aren't. Peruse and see what you like. Thank you for watching, and hey, if you like webcomics, how about you check out my webcomic, Tip the Ferryman? It's a paranormal mystery webcomic about identity, ghosts, and cool powers you get from being yourself. Link will be in the description below. Do you make a webcomic? Do you have a webcomic that you love to read? Tell me about it down in the comments. I've been looking for more webcomics to read. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. Y'all have a nice day.